wait a minute. This is a nice trophy. Oh, and it's dusty like hell. Sorry.
That's what happens when we stick things in a cabinet.
Yeah. Okay. Wait a minute. Where's the camera? The camera is here.
There we go.
So
Yeah.
see this?
Strat Player of the Year 2004 from Fender Europe. That's awesome. How many people have that?
Actually, only me.
Yeah.
The competition was never done again, so I'm still the Strat-King of Europe.
You have a song called that too, don't you?
The rating.
Yeah, who cares? I mean,
yeah. Eric Clapton can eat your dust.
Yeah.
Okay, here, what else is going on here? Look at this. This is my.
Oh yeah.
So this is my 61. And this is my 61 copy made out of old original Fender parts. And this is a mint condition 64 Strat.
Wow.
And blah, blah, blah. Les Paul, 335.
Notice how he says, yeah, Les Paul, whatever.
He just confirmed what we've been saying all along, Jim, is that you really only need like 3 guitars.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's more upstairs. This is a nice Paul as well. Like a gold.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and this is also a nice, it's a Les Paul Junior.
Yeah,
56.
Nice. Oh, wow.
It's a beautiful
So
piece.
this is the guitars downstairs here, and then there's more upstairs. But upstairs means it's not really that appreciated.
Oh. As Anderton says, they're not as dear.
No, Jim, he also showed me where all his amps and stuff are at in the room, and they're back in the corner. He's got like a stack of Marshall heads.
I got more upstairs, but the ones here in this room, they are really special. So this is a 65 GTM 45.
Okay.
The real deal.
I heard you talking to Anderton about that one.
Yeah, this is a KT66 General Electric clear bottle, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
And this is a nice one. Wait a minute, how to start it? That's one with 5881 tubes. It's actually another one of my favorites. This one is one with either 34, so I can kind of have the 50-watt plexi history with all kind of different tubes. And there's some modified 100 watts, and here's another 500 watt, and blah blah blah. And the Vox.
Wow.
And my Fender, and there's more. There's a nice Fender Tweed upstairs. I just have the combos upstairs because otherwise my room looks too messy. So I just bring them as I need them.
I love that poster on the wall too. By the way, that album's great. The Blug plays Hendrix.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I was listening to it yesterday, in fact.
Cool.
So, we have our questions. We usually run through. Actually, since we've already kind of basically started recording, I want to. I think I'm just going to skip the housekeeping. We'll do it as a bumper.
Yeah, we'll post it,
and then we'll go from there. So, let's get started. What are your? Do you have any like new projects that are coming out music wise, or are you like deeply ingrained in BluGuitar at this point?
No, I'm 50-50. I still love to do the music, and if you look on this wall here, that's my gig calendar.
Oh.
So you see all the different venues in Germany where I play. Munich, Saarbrücken is my hometown, and Frankfurt. And this is the America trip.
Yeah.
NAMM. So this week there's another Riegelsberg, and this is Stuttgart, and 3 is with Tony Carey, the guy who used to be in Richie Blackmore's Rainbow on keyboard.
Okay, yeah.
And so this one is in Austria, and here's some in the Black Forest. This is an event. This is a nice event coming up.
The Guitar Summit.
Yeah, and I play with Phil X, Tom Quayle, Uli, John Roth,
Yeah.
but them all. It's,
Just those guys,
Yeah.
Nobody big.
Yeah, and there's more to come. And here's like a little weekend with my Hendrix project, Les Hendrix. And keeps me busy. And especially December is more gigs.
I see you got Nam on there for LA.
Sure, yeah, next year. I have to think ahead. If you book gigs, you have to be like 1 year ahead.
Oh yeah, no, and that's how Jim operates too. Jim's more of a guitar player than I am lately, so.
Yeah, we're booked right now we're into January and looking at booking into next summer already. You got to do that. Because otherwise you don't know when you can take time off. It's like, when can I take a vacation with the family? Oh, well, if I took vacation with the family and now all of a sudden I get this offer, to play, this big event, you want to make sure that you've got yourself open.
Right. And I have to make the same arrangements here with my family. And I got enough experience from my past, so I know what works. And there's like a time after NAMM that I'm always going on vacation. Here back in Germany, they have some kind of carnival season going on, and I'm not into that.
Right.
Some other players are really busy that time, but I'm just not there. I just escape.
Yeah.
And the weather at that time is also not so nice. It's kind of winter, a bit snow, and basically the days are too short, the temperatures are too low, and people go crazy on carnival. It's basically a good thing to lift the mood, but I'm not kind of this oompa.
Right. The old polka style.
Yeah.
Now, when you're playing a gig like that, and I'm going to kind of segue towards your stuff, what kind of rig do you take to play, most of your gigs?
I have my own pedalboard, which is actually in my car right now.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of it.
Yeah, and this is the pedalboard I've been using for the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years or even longer, even before BluGuitar was existing. And it is a collection of the pedals that I like to use live. I'm having here in my shelf I have another one, a spare one. Where is it? Here, my good old Replex by Hughes and Kettner.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, I designed this when I was with Hughes and Kettner, and this is like an Echoplex and a tube-driven device. So this is on my pedalboard, and besides that, I have some what is it? Small stone phaser and a couple of
the real tube overdrive. I got your book right here.
Got it.
So
he's got a Wampler Plexi drive, Jim.
Hey.
And,
so you were with Hughes and Kettner?
Mm-hmm.
Was that around the time they were developing for the or doing the thing for Alex Lifeson?
Sure. I met Alex Lifeson a couple of times, and here's my story. I was with Hughes and Kettner for 27 years as a freelance guy. I was young when Hughes and Kettner didn't. At that time, actually, nobody was speaking English besides one guy, and they needed to have a demonstrator that could speak a little English and play the guitar. And actually, nobody could check it. So I was invited to go there, and they knew me as a guitar player from the area because Hughes and Kettner is also here in my area. It's like half an hour drive. And I was going there, and they knew, okay, this guy can play, but what about English? And that
was how you got the gig, right?
Yeah. And then, this was actually my first job going, I think, to a NAMM show or to America. I was never abroad back then when I think I was 20. And then when I did the demo of their first amp, I liked the concept, but I didn't like the sound so much. And so when I came back home to Germany, I thought, guys, maybe we should work on the sound design a bit more. And then the next episode in my life was 27 years being freelance designer with Hughes and Kettner. And Triumph, the amp that Alex Lifeson played, is here. I have mine sitting in my corner. And this is my concept as well. See this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There it is.
So, and I I played Triumphs since 1995. I played them the day they existed because it was my idea.
That's really cool.
Is to get an all tube amp. So yeah.
So
I play a Hughes and Kettner every gig. That's why.
Cool.
And here's what's
he's
funny.
talking about switching to the BluGuitar, so
now
you should romance him right now.
The Amp 1.
Yeah. Hey, it's all good. You know, this is all a big family. The whole industry. You know.
Oh yeah, no, it is.
You know, the guys are nice, and the products are great too. And they have all my, what you call it, genes anyway. You know. So. I think the reason why I did my own thing is more that the next step to do something that is not 13 tubes and is not weighing 20 kilograms was a big step and maybe too fast. And this what I decided to take the full risk for myself because I didn't know how long it would take to get to the final point. Mm-hmm. And you know, in a bigger company, you always have a boss that has to watch the budget and stuff.
Right.
And you know, and I'm a guy. I do the whole thing for passion. I mean, if it's finished when it's finished. You know, it's when it's good. And if I go bankrupt, I go bankrupt. And
right.
Well,
let me say this. Okay, so I walked up to you at GearFest and I saw you playing the Amp 1, and. Right. I kind of knew what it was when I walked up, and the sound that was coming out of it. That $699 it was at GearFest. And I'm like, you're kidding me. Like, it's jaw-dropping that you've got that kind of performance out of a device that's $700. And
it's the size of it's smaller than that Hughes and Kettner pedal.
It's smaller than my Helix.
Yeah, here's the Helix. I got everything here. While we're talking, here's the,
Yeah, I figured. I figured one was sitting around somewhere.
It is smaller.
Yeah, a lot smaller.
Yeah.
I would venture a guess, even with the controller that goes with it, I would guess that it's still smaller.
Yeah, and it's lighter too. That's the other thing. You know, I have this thing.
Yeah, I know. He was picking it up and he was showing everybody, look how light it is.
It's like a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you envisioned the Amp 1, because a lot of people we're not very bright. We call it the BluGuitar. So, but it's Amp 1,
right.
and so I've seen Jennifer Batten use it. That was the person that kind of went. For me, it was like, how is she doing that? You know, how is she getting that? And then she had a pedal board. I'm like, where's her amp? And that was her amp. And that was what was amazing to me, was that she could fit everything into a sleeve. Because you fly a lot, right? And I fly a lot. And when I was flying all the time, I would fly 2-3 times a week. I wanted everything in a bag that I could stick in the overhead. And that looks like you could stick it on a pedal board that you could just stick in the overhead, and you're there.
See, this is just a pedal board. I'm just about to do the next one here, and maybe you can see this pedal board here. So, and this is my Amp 1, and it goes on here. This magnetic shifting.
Yeah.
So I can stick it on my pedal board, and it's here. This fits in the overhead. Done. And the next gig, when I have to be even smaller, I just get it off the pedal board and stick it in the little bag here and put it inside my gig bag. And this is actually how I travel to the US. See, this is my gig bag.
Yep.
And this is like one of those nice double ones. So
right.
In this, I can fit 3 Amp 1s, my Strat, all my cabling, and all my underwear.
That is incredible.
That's what I used to do too. I would roll my underwear and my socks and stick them in between, and that's what I used for padding.
Exactly. It's still here, so I hope the socks are out. Yeah, but this is the reality. This is how it really works, you know?
Yeah.
And then you travel light, you don't have an extra case, which is cheaper for flying, and it saves time, you know, all this checking in for bags and waiting, and maybe it doesn't go up. So, you know, I can do all I need to do with just my guitar, and I'm set, you know? That's
so. The portability is incredible, right? That was the first thing that attracted me to it, because you can put your pedal board in one hand, your cab in the other, and put the guitar on your back, and you don't have to make 2 trips, go right up the stairs, go into wherever it is, and play. Now, that's cool, but the thing that got me was the way this thing sounds. I mean, oh my God, you showed me Fender tones, Vox tones, Marshall tones, modern sounds. I mean, so we've seen your collection of amps, so obviously you have good taste. Like, that's not even a question at this point. And it really shows that this thing can pull off those sounds. And this whole like nanotube thing, I know people see that and they say, "Oh, immediately that's a gimmick." It's not a gimmick, folks.
No,
I mean,
this here is my testing thing for the nanotube old school. When I started the project, this is
that's very cool to see that.
Yeah.
Wow. So, now, okay, so I got a question. How long, because the nanotube technology is not that old.
Well, actually what he's doing is.
Okay, so that's what I was going to say. Bring us to how you took, I'm going to take this little tube and I'm going to move that.
Yeah, okay, so my first point was, you know, I'm all about those tube amps, you know. These amps I bought for myself, for my personal pleasure and more upstairs, you know.
Right.
Amps and the combos are all upstairs. So, you know, the tone and what these mainly vintage tube amps excite me tone-wise is to describe it against anything modeling and digital, is it feels to me like the electric guitar breathes in a way. There is a certain sponginess that comes with rectifier tubes. There is a sag kind of thing going on, and it is not only just frequencies and the amount of overdrive. And you get some overdrive with some certain frequencies, and maybe you like it. No, the real deal with old school amps is so, I would say, 3-dimensional in tone. It is like, if I hit the string low, what does it sound like? If I hit it a little bit harder, what happens in the overtones? How many stages produce how many overtones? And how does this kind of multiply? And how does it enriches the tone? And then if you hit it even harder, blah, 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 or if you crank the gain more, or what happens if you have a booster in front and all of that stuff. And this is the beauty of the old amps, because I still love the old amps most of the time better than a lot of new amps, because they have a richer tone. Simply,
sure.
It's more exciting to me. And I'm just all about that, you know. So I call it BluGuitar. My slogan is tone innovation, but tone comes first. If there's no tone, I fuck about the innovation. Something, you know, some innovation that doesn't sound right, you know. I mean, I would be personally standing on stage with a bad tone. I feel shit myself. I cannot play anymore.
Right.
You know?
Right. And that's the thing. Like, so much of what all these players that we talk to, what their thing is like they want, you know, they need that sound because it inspires them. And if they're not inspired, they're not going to play right.
I literally get thrown off. I wish I could say it didn't, but if I have shit tone, it literally throws me off, and I'm like, now I can't find my tone, and I'm so busy up here thinking, how am I gonna? I'm not doing the entertaining part, which is what I'm there for in the first place.
Totally agree. I mean, I know the problem so well because if I do a lot of improvised music, or let's say I play tunes and I do a lot of long improvisations, because that's another passionate thing for me. You know, I call my latest project, it's called Rock Anarchy, which goes back to like the 70s. Idea how they made music. You know, the early Deep Purples, when they played like one song was 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite bands too, by the way. I'm glad you brought them up.
Richie, I'm a big Richie Blackmore.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe this little pick here, this is Richie Blackmore style pick. So,
yeah, I know.
You know,
the cut off sides and
yeah, and I have even some real ones here. Okay, yeah. You know, if you are free floating and improvisation, if there is no spiritual energy from the tone, you know, it's hard to surf through the music. And if there's something, if there's this energy of the tone, you know, you play so much better. And in the end, that's where the real music starts. You know, anything else is just a craftsmanship where you control with your brain, your hands to, you know, play that chord shape.
Right.
But you know, I like my moments best when I get lost in it, when I simply don't know what I'm doing anymore.
Yeah, and it's almost like I've had that moment where somebody else is playing. I'm just, my fingers are going, but I don't know where it came from.
Yeah. Yeah, and same here. And this is like also why I have a few pedals on my pedalboard. It's not like my amp couldn't do it, but it's like some of the pedals give me other tones that inspire me. You know, right. I have this Chandler tube. What is it called? Driver.
Yeah, the Chandler tube driver.
Yeah, and I call this the Eric Johnson Memorial.
Do you use his settings where he turns everything down?
Actually, I don't know. I have kind of put everything more in the middle, but not too much. I'm not. Let's put it that way. I was not after 100% authentic Eric Johnson tone.
Yeah.
But I discovered his little secret is to have a cascaded gain thing going on, like an overdrive pedal in a semi-overdriven amplifier.
Yeah.
Because. Yeah?
Yeah, and he's not the only guy that does it either, because like Robin Trower does it too. And you'll find a lot of these guys that play strats want to run an overdrive into a driven amp.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but anyway, so with this kind of setting, you know, I have a total different clipping point, and this makes my playing so much different because my personal style is I play very hard picks and I dig in the strings.
That's me too.
But, yeah, and I love that. But on the other hand, once you have this extra gain stage, everything becomes more legato, you know? And of course, it's not. Yeah, I see. Yeah.
I don't have my 2 mil.
I dig deep.
I may have you beat.
Yeah.
Yeah. There.
When you listen, this is the sound of, you know, as hard as it should be in my world.
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
So, what really impressed me though is when I met you at GearFest and you were running through that Nano cab.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, with the portability thing, you've designed a set of cabs. Specifically, the Nano cab's the one that blew my socks off. It's literally what, like 13 inches wide total?
It is 12-inch speaker plus 1 inch on all sides. But I mean, it's as little as possible, you know.
It's ported.
I'm looking at that right now.
You can literally put that thing in a suitcase. It's that small.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually, I've been traveling with that in a suitcase too, you know. Maybe I have one upstairs. Let me see.
I believe it. And you know what? So while Tom's going upstairs to look for that, I gotta say that thing it sounds like a big 212. It does. I was floored. Yeah. He's like, "Oh no, I'm using this one." I'm like, "What?" He has a stack of all the cabs there, and he's using the Nano cab, and I'm just like, I couldn't believe it.
Can you
That's
see
incredible.
that? I honestly think about buying one.
You need to tell Sweetwater to put the dimensions on their site, because until you just showed me, I had no idea how big or small it was.
Yeah, it's way smaller than my compact Mesa cab. Let's put it that way.
So see my elbow here, and see the cap here now.
Oh wow!
This is my elbow, my hand. It's just like the middle part.
And I think the porting does a lot for it. I think the porting gives it a little bit more bass oomph, and I think also you mentioned in the video with Andertons that you played around with the cabinet depth, that's also big.
Yeah, I noticed. Basically, it's stupid simple, but on the other hand, every parameter matters. So the depth is important. I also have a special dampening wool inside.
Okay.
And each of my cabinets have their own designed speaker.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask about next.
If you take a vintage 30, for example, here's my little. Can you see this?
Yeah.
This is my test thing. So I can, 1 second, and I can get a new speaker in here. So look at this. I just take this off like this, and then.
I think I need one of those.
Yeah, there you go.
So it's just a second to have a different speaker. But you have one of those speakers, industry standard, nice. You put them in my Nano cab, it also sounds good. But then I listen to the whole thing, and then I think, wait a minute, I got my tone in my head. What do I want to have to be different? The Vintage 30 is a great speaker for a few other applications, but if I have a very specific application, which is like a Nano cab, I can have this like only a starting point and then go from there, and get maybe rid of some honky mid-range and change this and blah, blah, blah.
The cab itself, for our listeners, sounds kind of like a 25-watt, greenback. It does. I'm really impressed.
I'm a big fan of greenbacks, and so the ideal greenback enclosure is actually 4x12 to my ears.
Right.
So all my old Marshall cabinets. What is a greenback? It's basically the like second generation of 4x12 cabinets.
Mm-hmm.
Right. 4 30-watt greenbacks and a.
Yeah, they're 25 and 30. You're right.
Or 25. Yeah.
The whole history upstairs, I have a collection of a lot of old speakers. Unfortunately, I noticed that the Wi-Fi is not good over there, so I'm afraid to go there. But
you don't need to. We trust you.
So I'm looking at the BluGuitar impulse response speaker emulator. So, and you literally have both of you have the Nano cab and the Fat cab listed as two of the speakers that you emulate among the ones that you were talking about. Which one would you say was the one that you just mentioned?
You mean the old Marshall cabinet upstairs?
Yeah.
In my studio, most of the time I use the Stack 1970. Is it called? Wait a minute.
Okay. Yep. Stack 1970.
Yeah, 70. And that's actually a very, very special cabinet because it uses a 25-watt greenback. But here comes 55 hertz. It was a bass speaker.
Okay.
And the old bass speakers I liked a lot. And because the regular guitar version has 75 hertz resonance.
Right.
And actually, I think this speaker it's very special. Maybe also to another fact, the dust cap has been repaired for some reason. And this is like my best speaker, my personal taste. Yeah. And this has kind of the most fat nits and creaminess ever. So anyway, I like it. In the blue box, you have other choices. Some other people like it too. But like Jennifer Batten, her favorite is the first one, the Stack 65. And that's like the first generation of a Marshall cabinet using Alnico speakers. They were loaded with 4 speakers, 15 watt each. So
right.
a 4x12 cabinet has only 60 watts.
60 watts. Yeah. Because well, back then there was still that fight of the amp wars, where it was like, give me more, give me more, give me more, and that was that Pete Townsend time frame when Townsend was screaming for, I want 75 watts, I want 100 watts, because what you call it was also playing through Marshalls, the bass player for the Who. Oh, come on, Jim.
John Entwistle.
Yeah,
and
I'm good for
so.
something.
Yeah, and so they were kind of having a war because Entwistle didn't play the standard way that a lot of bass players played, and so exactly that typewriter style.
Yes.
So I'm looking at the I have the thing for the Blue Box here for our listeners. It's 16 speaker emulations, all impulse response based with variable axis, so you can change from the edge of the speaker to the center. And every conceivable in and out you can get on it, and it has a ground lift switch, which in my mind makes that the most functional version of that I've seen lately.
Let's put it that way. I tried to reduce the whole thing as much as possible. So, I'm always thinking of what's the situation I'm using that thing, and of course one is here in my studio, but my main use is being a live guitar player on stage. Yes. And when you are on stage, the first thing is you want something small. The next thing is you want something simple, because if there's too many parameters, you are never sure if you have the right tone. So this is also on my pedalboard.
Palm of your hand, people. If you're not watching us on YouTube, this is literally fits in the palm of your hand.
Yeah. So here.
So so that would be about the size of like the Plexi drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jim, it's small. I've seen it in person.
It is the size. This is a standard housing of the company is called Hammond, and it's the standard size. There's two sizes. Maybe
it's like the 128B or something.
Yeah, this is the small one, like you see this old MXR Dynacomp, and so just to compare it, that's the blue box, and it's the same. See?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Where's it here? So this is how big it is.
Oh, jeepers! That's even smaller than I thought it was.
Yeah, it's small, Jim, and very, very usable because I got to hear that too.
And
I'm thinking
here, which is important. It has the balanced line out. So
yes.
If in a live situation when your PA system is using another power outlet, you can get ground loops when you go direct, and this with a real transformer, it's even not possible to get a ground loop. So it definitely will work with any problem.
Now I know I'm not going to ask you for your secret sauce, but that transformer's got to be like this big. I mean,
yeah, it's
it's very, very small.
Upstairs, I do have some samples, but yeah, it's that small. It's that, but hey, it is the size of a microphone transformer.
Wow. Yeah,
so that's what it is.
So the speaker that goes into the Nano Cab, Fat Cab, and Twin Cab, are you going to make those available as like a resale speaker, or is that like unique to your cabs?
Let's put it that way. We do have some in stock for replacement as. Just in case somebody would blow a speaker. I'm not offering it like a product on the website. So, I mean, if you are really, 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 really nice and write us an email, we could as a spare part, but it is not like our business plan to sell our speakers.
Right. I have the same thing because I play G&L guitars, and to get their specific pickups, and they do have some proprietary pickups. You have to pay a premium and their replacement parts. So.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it will not be super expensive, but it's for me. The idea is I made this speaker sound best in my cabinet. So, if I sell this speaker to somebody and then he puts it in another enclosure and I don't know if it sounds good,
Right.
So I just want to avoid any frustration or disappointment. So if the guy knows exactly what he wants and if he's begging for one, we find a solution. But it's, otherwise there's some great speakers available, even though I think mine are better, but especially for my cabinets. So,
I think that right. That's exactly what we talk a lot about cabinets on our show. Right. And the thing that people forget is that everything about that cabinet, whether it's the wood, the port, the physical dimensions, the air that it pushes, everything about it makes a difference to the audience. You can fight about, you can argue, right? You can argue tone woods all day long about a guitar, but you can't argue the physical dimensions and physical makeup of a cabinet affecting the sound. It's definite. It's there.
Right.
And here, even I'm looking if I find my here I got it. Here I have. Can you see this little thing here? Yeah. So this is one wire out of my front grill glove. Okay.
It's very thick.
Yes, it's very thick. And the thing is, wait a minute. Now I do something totally forbidden. Lighter. Okay, this one doesn't work anymore. I quit smoking a while ago, so...
there may not be a working one there.
So, okay, now I show you what happens if I use this. It is paper.
Oh my. Yeah.
Same material that was used on the old Marshall cabinets. And I have been asking myself for ages why the old ones sound so smooth. And the difference is the grill cloth. One of the differences is the grill cloth. And you can smell it. It's like, these little details. It all sums up in the end. I mean, it's the grill cloth material, it's the wood, it's the thickness, it's the blah blah, the portation. It's if you have dampening stuff inside, it's that. And like my speakers, they have lightweight membranes, so I have selected membranes, and I have no edge treatment, and all that stuff that makes the tone more alive. But this is stuff that I learned and used to make my cabinet sound good at the volume that we are living or that we have to use today, because back in the 70s when they designed these speakers, the world was different, it's like John Entwistle was competing with Anderton and who's the loudest guitar player on earth, and today if you are loud, you have a problem,
Right. Yeah, up through Eddie Van Halen, it was all about how many Marshalls can I stick on stage and how many of them can I push through. And I think the only band that's left that's really, really doing that is AC/DC.
Yeah, but hey, fair enough. I mean, they are the originals, and I wouldn't like to see them without their big stacks. But hey, who are we? We are not AC/DC,
Right.
And if you play a nice pub gig and there is no room for your Marshall wall.
Right. Although I've seen some guys locally doing that, really small bars. So it's funny when they have the U-Haul pull up and they got 10 guys unloading their gear.
Sure. Hey, if you like to do that, fair enough, all good. I enjoy all that stuff, but being the guy that carries the stuff around myself, I tell you, hey, I enjoy my little thing. Can you see my car over there? Wait a minute, the blue one.
Yeah.
This is my little Audi convertible. So this is how anything that fits in there is good.
Right.
Anything that doesn't fit there stays at home. Okay. The last time I moved my real 4x12 was when Stuart Copeland, the drummer of the Police,
right.
had me for a session in the studio, and I had to take the roof up, load in the 4x12, take the roof back down.
Hope it didn't rain.
Yeah, I was lucky. It was not raining, but this was the last time I've done that, and I just did it for him.
Yeah,
Right.
I could definitely see you doing that for somebody like him. So just to back up a little bit, so you had this beautiful Monterey painted Strat at Gearfest. Yeah, you let me play that guitar for a minute. Wow. So I didn't know you had a signature guitar through Vintage Guitars. But I wanted to let you know I'm a Strat player myself, and I really enjoyed playing that guitar. I'm actually Jim and I are in the middle of a year where we don't buy any significant gear. That guitar right there, that's the one.
See, I know you're going to give in, Dave.
I'm going to have to get one of those at the end of this. Like, it's going to happen. So,
and they're affordable. That's the thing that I get is they're not like $4,000 or $6,000.
No, it's like $700 US.
Yeah.
And just it's quite simple. You know, the guy behind the Vintage brand is Trevor Wilkinson. You know, the guy that does hardware pickups and.
That's where I knew it. I knew it was from. He's German, right?
No, he's Germany. He's UK.
Oh, UK.
Yeah. UK, I thought he was British. Yeah.
He's living in Southport, UK. It's nice. It's a nice. It's very British. It's different than in Germany.
Yeah.
You fill up the beer to the top. You know, they swipe it off, and it all is greasy, and the carpet. You know, it's like when you walk in the pub. But friendly people, the beer tastes great, and they have the weirdest English accent ever. You know, it's like. Oh, I got some humbucker pickups here. You know, I have difficulty to understand this kind of English sound.
So the last time I was in Germany in 1986. The last time I was in Bremerhaven or Wilhelmshaven, one of the two.
So this is up in the north. This is
up in the north, right?
Yeah,
because we were. Exactly. Way up there. Exactly. And so if you back up your camera just a little bit, keep your finger there. So we were shouldering the Russians back then. So we were playing and messing with them. So in the height of the Cold War. Right. So when we pulled up into there, that was the first time I was like, oh, it's going to be nice and cold. We're going to have a cold beer. I did not have a cold beer. I have other stories I can tell you, but I don't know if they're podcast worthy.
I've heard some from Jim. I don't know if they're podcast worthy either.
Let's just say our taxi cab driver didn't know English. And so when we tried to explain to him, rock and roll, he kind of took us to a place that wasn't really what we were. The Scorpions were there, and it's like we were trying to find So very embarrassing. My cousin was born because my uncle was stationed in the Frankfurt area. Right. So my cousins were born in Germany. So we went over there quite a bit.
So you see, this is Frankfurt?
Yep.
So we talked about Bremerhaven over here. Yep. Okay. And I'm living here, Saarbrücken. So okay. And the green part here is France, okay?
Yeah.
And this is where I am. And I'm actually, if I go up this hill, and when I go down the hill, I'm in France.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I used to spend, there was one year where I spent more time in Toulon than I did in America, in the United States. So yeah, I love France. Matter of fact, my son and I have talked about several times. He's like, Dad, don't you want to live abroad? And I said, well, there was a lot of places I like. He goes, where would you go? I said, oh, France. I would live in the south of France. Definitely.
Nice.
So you were talking with the guys at Anderton's on their video. You were talking about on your Blue Plays Hendrix Live album, the bass player, and how loud that bass is. It definitely comes across in the recording. I was listening to it. I was like, oh my God. Like, how did you?
Yeah, I mean, Reggie is first of all, he's one of the best bass players that I know. And he used to be the original bass player in Ike and Tina Turner's band.
Right.
So Nutbush City Limits, that's him.
Okay.
And he toured the world, and then he kind of ended up in Germany and stayed over there. Actually, in the north of Germany, more close to Bremerhaven, where you've been.
Yeah.
So when I play in the south, he has always a lot of traveling costs. So I have to get him a bass. If I go up north, it's easy and cheap. But so anyway, but yeah, he's used to very big stages, and then he likes that punch, and
it hits you in the head while you're listening to it. I mean, it's craziness. I've never heard anything like that on a live album. They usually dial the bass back in the mix and stuff, but for him, I don't think they could.
No, I had a situation where the guy of the PA, the front of house mixer, actually had put down the fader on the mixing console, and and the bass was still there without even having PA subwoofers, So
yeah, that's the thing. It sounds like it's got subs on it. I got a pair of two 8-inch monitors, or no, they're not even 8-inch, they're 5-inch monitors. And it's like hitting me in the chest. I'm going, where's the sub?
Now, what kind of rig does he play through?
MPEG SVTs, the
real deal.
And sometimes he has Trace Elliott,
okay.
With I think a stack of a 115 and 410. It's loud.
Yeah.
Just it's loud. And if he's on one side of the stage and I'm on the other side of the stage, it's okay. But we had a situation where the club was a bit small, so the drummer was on one side of the stage, and we both were standing next to each other. And in those days, I was still playing one Greenback 25-watt Celestion speaker against 1,500 watt of his power.
That must have had a hell of a PA.
I think this was one of the nights when I killed one of the Greenbacks. So I know, I killed a few speakers, so I know where the limits are.
Was he playing so loud? There's a lot of times, if my cabinet's too close to the bass cabinets, obviously I lose all my low end, and all you hear is a bunch of screaming highs, maybe a little bit of high mids. Everything else is gone.
It sounds like a buzzing bee.
Yeah.
The bass takes over every energy below 5 kilohertz or whatever.
Yeah.
And it makes you sound like shit.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it. I was thinking about. So you did that record. That was with the Triamp, or was that with the Amp 1?
This was actually the first live album was done with this 100-watt Plexi Marshall.
Okay.
And this, you can see the Thomas logo. Can you see that now?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Nice.
And that's a Black Flag, which it's a 1967.
Right.
And if you look very close on the cover, there's a white plastic box.
Okay.
And this is the prototype of Amp 1.
Okay.
And I splitted the cabinet. So on the first one, I actually used both. And this amp here became the reference for my vintage channel also on Amp 1. And then there's another recording I was doing with the Triumph back then. I recorded with the Amp 1 with the orchestra because this was later.
Right. Okay.
Which is my DVD. Oh my God. Maybe look.
I can look this up when he shows it to us because I'm going to get this.
Yeah. He's got some excellent stuff. Even just I got some of it off of iTunes Music the last couple days, and I'd seen videos of him playing on at NAMM and stuff like that, so I knew he was a killer player already. But
I have to go upstairs.
That's all right. That's all right. We'll put all the if you want to send us any links for this stuff, or if you want to send me any information, we'll post it in the show notes so that our listeners can find it.
Yeah, especially the DVD. I want to get that.
Yeah.
The easiest way is if you go on my website and then go maybe to Amazon.
Okay.
But you can find it on my website, so you know exactly the title, and there is some pre-listening stuff, so you can get an impression if you like it, or So yeah.
So this is probably not a question I'm going to get a good answer to, but is there new stuff coming from BluGuitar? Can we expect new products?
Product always.
All right. I'm staying tuned, man. I'm seriously excited about this stuff. If we didn't have the year of no gear, I'd be saving up right now to get an Amp 1, frankly.
No, you do need to save up, because here's the things you need. So I was doing my Amp 1 thing, right? So here's my next year's cabinet. I'm going to buy the Amp 1. I'm going to buy the controller. So I'm at $1,000 right now, American.
You get that
I'm going to buy the blue box.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to buy the amp, the Nano amp, or a Nano box, and I got to get the looper kit for the remote.
Oh, well, then you're talking $3,000 now.
Yeah, I'm up there right now. So I don't know if that PRS is going to be next year. I think this is going to be next year, because to be honest with you, I've been looking at the Helix, but there's a lot of things, and no offense to the Helix, but there's a lot of things about the Helix that I'm not really falling in love with yet. And all this stuff I am, because I've heard this thing. I've heard, I know the Helix has an effects send and return, but
Helix is
this
cool,
thing has.
But yeah. I'll be honest with you, this thing sounds better.
Yeah.
I'm a big Helix user, and I'll give you my hot take on this. The Helix has a lot of flexibility if you need kind of quirky amp sounds or very specific high gain tones and things like that. It's got the ability to do the impulse responses, so it does have that built in. But what it doesn't have is the level of tube feel that you're going to get out of the BluGuitar. If you're a diehard tube player, then that's where you want to go, and maybe get that HX effects or something and throw it in the loop.
Exactly. I mean, the way I thought of the Amp 1 concept in general is it replaced my 13-tube loaded tri-amp. Okay, so, and it is not a step down.
No,
period.
It's not.
It is not. It's maybe even a step up, because I evolved in my skills of sound designing, and there are some other YouTube guys. I was doing an A/B comparison Shootout against other boutique amps. Maybe you can throw that. And one guy is called HP.
Oh yeah, we know who he is. Yep.
Yeah.
Paul Henning.
HP. Henning Pauli, and he had his own collection of boutique amps, and he was playing, and I was just taking the challenge of A/B comparing my amp against his amps, and I was not sure what I was expecting, because he didn't tell me what he's got.
Yeah, right. He's got everything.
He's got basically everything, and I brought some of my pedals here, just in case.
Just a few of them.
Something was missing on my amp and I couldn't get it there. But hey, in the end, you can see it in the video. I didn't use anything. I just dialed the knobs on the Amp 1, and Henning was like, I don't hear a difference, or the difference, I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
And so to me, this is the level of. I'm at the level. If I want to do a 98% version of any all tube amp, I can. I know it. And of course, Amp 1 at this point sounds like Amp 1 does sound, because it is just another analog tube amp with a character that is defined by the components I'm using.
It's a product built from good ears, and you have good ears, and so it reflects how you sonically hear things.
Sure, yeah, but you have to watch this too, because I got my ears and I got my taste, and the reason for different amp manufacturers is also there are different tastes, and it's good. So I'm not claiming that I get all the sounds the best, blah blah blah. That there's always room for another guitar, for another amp, for another tone. But what I would claim is I'm on the level. I can do A/B against anything, and it's not like I'm going a step down. No, I'm on the same level. You can still discuss if you like it as much as your beloved whatever amp.
Well, you know the guys at Kemper, I mean, like I know because I've seen interviews where you talked about them and kind of participating in the design of the Kemper and like at least being talked to about what was going on there.
I know the guys long. They're Germans, and we actually been around for decades. And I know him when he was designing synthesizers. I have a virus here in my shelf, so
okay.
I'm a Christoph Kemper customer without having the Kemper in my house at this point. But I had a Kemper as one of the first guys, even when they had only prototypes. So,
all right. So the reason I bring this up though is like the Kemper and the Helix are more like the same thing, where it's very specific amp models, and they nail those sounds. But you've got something that does something a little bit different in the sense that it provides similar sounds, but they're great and they're very usable, and they cover a wide range of options. I mean, it's like the difference between using a Tech 21 product versus using a Line 6 product.
Yeah, and for me, the Kemper is great. He captures the sound, and you have this collection of sounds, and in the studio it's easy to recall. And but the major difference to me is the digital products. They kind of model a tube amp at one stage, and my amp is a tube amp, and if you change the volume or the touch of the guitar, it doesn't matter if I have more output or more input, it will react just like the tube amp. As a digital product is either a bit too loud or too low or whatever, but gives you the perfect sound. So I think that's a general thing, different. And I'm not saying my amp is better. It's probably, if you are in a classic band situation with a real drum kit and drive a real guitar speaker, you feel the tube quality in my amp, and this makes you feel home, and that's my story. If you play a Kemper in-ear, I think nothing comes close to that. I mean, I can use my amp and the Blue Box and get there, but it's like I have only one speaker cabinet, and when I want to do another one, I have to manually switch it.
Right.
So there's beauty in both technologies, and I just go my way with like my priorities.
Right.
And
the difference to me is emulation versus the real deal. Okay. Right.
Yeah,
so you're not trying to pretend to be something that you're not. It's the real deal. This is an amp.
This is
it has its own topology.
This is an amp 1. It is not a Marshall. It's not a Fender. It's not it's an amp 1. And this is and this is my speaker cab. And whether you go to a different speaker cab or whatever, like you said, that is what you make the choice of. But like us, those of us who do live stuff, that's why I was looking at your Blue Box, is now I can dial another cabinet. Yeah. So it is, I think the whole market is full of products that gives you different solutions. The major issue here is, are you aware of what your problem really is and how to solve it? I mean, I sometimes I'm watching other players and think, hey man, I see you suffer.
Yeah.
It could be so easy. It could be so easy. Some people buy beautiful products, but they are not made for them. So for me, I always try to help people to make their life easier, hoping that my product is offering something for them. And if it's not the right product, I will go to the guy and will say, you better buy a Fender Twin, an old one, blackface, because you only need one tone, play your telly, and, go to the gym and build up muscles, because...
because you're going to need it for moving that thing in and out.
Yep.
Here's the thing. This is the analogy I like to use. Not everybody can drive a car to work. Some of us need a pickup truck.
Right.
Some of us need a dump truck. Some of us need a diesel, and some of us need a gas engine. Some people can go with a 4-cylinder, and some need an 8-cylinder. It really depends on what your outcome is and the tool, because that's what these are. You're providing tools, no different than when I go to buy a wrench at the store. I need a wrench that does this job. And I think that people get lost in that. They forget that they are still tools. They do inspire us, but they're still tools.
So
Absolutely.
if your car analogy works, my Helix is a Tesla, and his car is, or his Amp 1 is like an Audi S4 or something.
Right.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, don't buy a Lamborghini if you want to do, or if you want to move your house, you know?
Right.
Because you can move your duck clubs, so that's it.
You know, there's a great solution to have big fun, but only for the right kind of guy. I mean, you should be, whatever, below 80 years, because after 80s, it's hard to get in there, you know, with your bones cracking.
Yeah.
So what we talk about, and we're headed towards the end here, so I'll leave you with this story from me. But what we talk about at my local guitar shop is that a lot of so anybody who buys a 412 cab now and is buying a 100-watt head is going to stick it in their basement, and they're never going to take it out. And like, these guys know that. They're bedroom players, but they play in their basement. That's basically what they are. And so this is a gigging musician's tool. Like,
right.
So that's just what it is.
Yeah. And I had my personal situation in my mind, and you know, I have all the other stuff. I have the 4x12s upstairs. I have the big heads here, and I've done it. And I've done it so many times that it was too much.
I think at one time we were all young, right? Yeah. And we wanted to do what we saw our forefathers, so to speak, do. Yeah. And now, I think what we forget is we're in a technological apex right now. Because if you'd have told me 20 years ago that you could get 100 watts of tube power out of a pedal-sized box, I'd have laughed in your face and then walked away. But
we're at the point now where we've seen stuff like that happen already.
Right.
Yeah. and it's that size, and it's only 2 pounds. I mean, if you look at the whole thing, this is the power inlet, that's the speaker output, and there's the guitar input. And I mean, if you talk to a guy that designs tube amps, it's like, hey man, are you watching in and output? It's so critical to get like feedback stuff going on.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any smaller than this, I tell you. I mean, I could reduce another 30% maximum, but anything below that is a physical.
Gonna run out of room for the jacks.
Yeah. Sure. That's why I've done the remote one, because the remote one gives you all the other options that I didn't have room for on the amp itself.
Well, I'm really impressed. I'm glad you were able to make it on and talk to us for a bit. Jim, do you have anything you want to ask?
No, I just want to say thanks a lot for spending all my money next year. When this year of stuff is over, I got to buy all this stuff, and because we're going to go to Gear Fest next year, and then I'm going to buy it all.
If you're at Gear Fest, we'll go out. We'll buy you a beer or something.
Yeah,
I'm there definitely. I have to admit, Gear Fest is a very nice event, and I'm going to a lot of events on the planet. You know, I'm going to Music China.
You're probably doing Music Mess and all that.
Yeah, so I can compare a bit. And Gear Fest is something that impressed me because first, it is, it's massive. Yeah. I mean, I was simply impressed by how massive the whole thing is, how big the store is, how many people attend.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, everything is kind of made so easy, which means you go there, you can talk to the people, you can the customers come and they can buy right away.
Yeah, they turn around, they talk to a Sweetwater rep, and he's flagging it and going to pick it up. It's crazy. I'm thinking about how things could be when you design products and events, and it's like they've done something right. Yes, they really have. That was my first year, and I'm already looking at Airbnb for next year, and then talking to people who want to go with us, and so it's like just a big. Jim's obviously going to be there, but I got the line on food because I'm actually friends with a Sweetwater rep, but my Sweetwater rep there, like he and I are close friends now. I did a podcast with him for 60 Cycle Hum. I had Ryan Burt come over and try out your stuff as well from 60 Cycle Hum. You might want to reach out to him. And he's got a much bigger listener base than we do at this point. But I'm sure he'd love to work with you and see what he can do to get you on the show or whatnot. But the main thing is like we know people there now, so I know where all the good restaurants and stuff are. And like I said, I'll take you out and get you a beer, I'll get you some tacos. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a friend that lives right there.
Okay, you do too.
So
right.
yeah, I'll be staying at my buddy's house probably. But
I already made arrangements too, because the funny thing is, after Gearfest, I went to the Summer NAMM, and at Summer NAMM, I met Paula Jo Taylor.
Okay.
And have you heard about this story?
No.
Last year I was at Summer NAMM, okay, and I had exact the same mobile phone which we are using now in my hand, and there was this granny checking the amp1 with a Telecaster playing.
Oh, yeah, I saw that video last year.
Okay.
Yeah, and this was me. I saw this granny guitar, and I've just filmed it, and I put it online, and I forgot to tag that it was BluGuitar, because I thought, I'd just make this as a memory for me being at Nashville. So I tagged the whole thing, and then by Christmas, I got an email from Paula saying, could you please give me the rights for this video? And I said, okay, well, it's not a problem, I mean, you use it, whatever. And then she used this on a television show, and the whole thing kind of went viral.
Exploded.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
And you're not tagged in it?
I wasn't, because I put it up and I just put it like, NAMM, Summer NAMM.
Yeah.
But she's not. She now mentioned, filmed by Thomas Blug, blah, blah, blah. But that's not the big point of it. But she's super, super nice lady.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, the first thing is, like, her daughter is singing in the band, and she goes to Paula, and says, Mommy, the video that you've seen went viral. And she goes, hey, do I need to see the doctor now?
Yeah. Yeah. So.
And then she came, when I was at Summer NAMM this year, and she said, you know what? I'm playing on Broadway down here in Nashville. If you want to join in, I said, sure. And guess what? On the way out there, I met a guy from Germany that does the press work for Camper as well, and he's kind of good filming, because I was going there to play there. I thought somebody that should do a little video. Anyway, I saw Christoph Kemper too, and said, hey, Christoph, you want to join in playing keyboards? So there's this video on my Facebook page with Christoph Kemper on keyboards, and her, Paula Jo, and of course no rehearsals, nothing, just a jam, and fun. And she, and this is the story that goes back now for Gearfest next year. One of her sons lives in Fort Wayne.
Okay.
And
he's doing Airbnb.
Okay.
So I will stay at her son's place next year.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, we're just trying. So we're trying, because the podcast, where it's like a community, and we're trying to get people to come in, and like we're gonna go down. I'm gonna go down a day early, at least, and hopefully get to hook up with some of the people that listen to our show and jam a little bit and that kind of thing before we actually have to go to the event. And then we'll cover the event like we did last year, walking around, talking to people, getting interviews, handing out business cards, all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that video that you were talking about, I remember it from last year, because I was looking at it. Of course, being in a guitar community, everybody shares these things, and it's like Granny plays guitar or something like that. And it came up in my Facebook feed, and I was like, oh, this is cool, probably be cute. And she rips it up, and I said, oh, crap, she's incredible. Yeah. And then you just mentioned it, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. So I just linked it over to David so he could put it in the show notes. She's an awesome player.
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm gonna check it out too, because I don't think I've seen this yet.
But I think the one I saw on YouTube had like 10 million. That's her.
So he's got
had 10 million views.
That's awesome.
She gave me the record, and I put it in my car. And this is the real deal. For me, being German, I'm not the biggest country connoisseur or whatever talk. But she talks about her. The next song is a story about a funny guy that I met in Mexico, and he goes, and then he said, It's the whole 9 yards. I'm having such fun to listen to that CD, and it's so totally different from what I do. I'm just excited about it. It's cool. It's a cultural experience for me.
It's funny that you said something about the country music, because it's funny that the Americans once again stole another musical idea. Notice the polka type undertones in country music.
Right.
Yeah. But the way she does it is old school, and she told me that her dad goes back being a musician like from the 1930s or something. This is like family music tradition for the daughter now sings in her band. It's the whole. I mean, it doesn't get any more authentic for me.
No. It doesn't get any more authentic country, old school country, because Johnny Cash's wife, June Carter, was from a country band like that. And my family was like that. We had a family band. Everybody in the band was related,
And for me, it's a beauty to see this kind of things, besides all the other stuff that I'm doing or experiencing. This gentleman here, unfortunately, he has passed away.
Yeah.
Johnny.
We know him.
Yeah, I played with him, and
wow.
Uli.
Oh yeah, Andy
there you go, Dave.
Andy uses the Amp 1.
Yeah, he used the Amp 1 after we played together. He with his big Marshall. And then he looked at the whole thing, and this is your amp, He had a laugh, First he had a laugh,
and then you gave him one, and then he was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, just showed it to you, and he, a week later, the phone was ringing and said, "Hello, it's Uli," and I said, "What's up?" And then he told me, "I was thinking about your amp, blah blah blah. I need one," and he ended up buying 3.
I was gonna say, I'll buy 3.
Yeah. He ended up buying 3, and the other players in his band, he has 2 other guitar players sometimes. They have also to buy. So Uli Roth bought 5 amps.
So I just want to say, and this is something that just occurred to me. So somebody like Uli John Roth, right? He tours the world. He's got cartage. He's got places where he stores this equipment, and for when he comes to the U.S. or whatever. Having the Amp 1, I mean, literally you can get 3 of them in a suitcase or whatever. You don't need any of that anymore. You don't have to store all your gear in these big warehouses or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then you don't have that big loss you had that happened in Nashville, 10, 15 years ago, where all those people lost all those amps and guitars.
Yeah. And I have so many guys. I mean, the touring guys, they talk to each other, and it's like. Here in Europe, it is we are ahead like a year or 2. I mean, the US just, of course, I founded the company in Germany, and people know me over here. The US kind of the next step, but here you can see 2 guys at the airport, and it's like, hey, what amp do you have?
Yeah.
Guys meet at the airport, and chances are like that, some of them have Amp 1s, and they meet at the airport.
Yeah, I believe it. So
yeah.
All right. Well, we're at an hour and 12 minutes now. So, Jim, if you got anything you want to add, I mean, do it now.
Nope. I'll be buying my stuff when the year of no gear is over.
I'm patiently considering it. I've got a year to figure it out. But
I've already got the cash set aside, so it's just a thing for me to wait until either the year is up or Dave finally caves in and buys something that he wasn't supposed to buy.
I'm not even looking at stuff, Jim. So anyway, we really appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us. And if you drop any new products in the future and you want to come on the show and promote them or whatever, you can just reach out to us and we'll see if we can hook you up.
Yeah, super. It's my pleasure. And hey, if you have any more questions, we can do this anytime. I mean, you see, nowadays it's so easy.
Oh yeah.
It's wherever I have Wi-Fi, I can talk, and there's lots of things that are exciting to talk about.
Yeah.
I could show you around here in town, and
it would be great to see your upstairs stuff.
Someday.
I get the Wi-Fi booster. That's definitely a good point.
Yeah.
Because also I have the upstairs room is for my guests, and sometimes they have to come down for Wi-Fi. And this is like my musician. I'm a musician's home, which means sometimes when we do our gigs, people stay at my place too.
Right.
So. Yeah, next time I have Wi-Fi upstairs, and I show you.
That sounds awesome.
That sounds great.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I've been Jim.
And I've been David.
Yeah.
And
this is.
Bye.
Thanks, Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah.